90% of us, very likely, you, me, and almost everyone you know, is breathing incorrectly. And this failure is either causing or aggravating a laundry list of chronic diseases. Hi guys, thank you all so much for being here today. Let me kickstart this video by asking a very simple question. How are you breathing right now? Are you breathing through your nose or through your mouth? Are you breathing comfortably? Is it too fast, too slow, or just right? This video here is a discussion on what it means to breathe just right and the incredible amount of positive benefits that it can confer on our everyday life. Now, I know I was pleasantly surprised while researching on this topic regarding all of the new information that I learned, because one would think that an activity as mundane and monotonous as breathing is something we would all have figured out by now. I don't know about you, but at least me, through the course of the research that went into this video, I realized that there is a lot to be learned and a lot that I was pleasantly surprised about, and hence this video. Number 1 is a book called Jaws, The Story of a Hidden Epidemic. Number 2, Breathe, The New Science of a Lost Art. This video is divided into part 1. We're going to talk about why is it even important for us to breathe right? What does it mean? Part 2, how can we breathe right? So let's get started. So what are the benefits of breathing correctly? There are 4 of these, and in no particular order, they are as follows. Number 1, how does breathing impact our overall physical appearance, just the way that we look, our aesthetics? In order to explore this, let us first answer the question of what is malocclusion. Malocclusion is this process where our teeth become either overcrowded or they're just misaligned or crooked, and obviously not a good look. But malocclusion has direct links to the way we breathe. There is a very common misconception that the way that our teeth are shaped and the way that our jaw is placed and everything has to do with genetics. While there is no denying that there is certainly a genetic component to all of this, it is so interesting to note that a huge portion of this, I would even say 80% according to sources, is very well within our hands. And then the way that our jaws are structured and how sharp they are and how defined they are and how our teeth kind of sit with each other and whether or not they're aligned and so on and so forth really comes down to whether or not we breathe correctly. So again, huge impact on physical appearance. This is also being confirmed over and over again, especially in twin studies where you have one twin that was raised in a regular household, and by regular I mean not much, let's say, attention or emphasis placed on breathing correctly. And in another situation, the twin was directed on these correct breathing practices, made aware of it, and made to perform them on a day-to-day basis. And in both cases, you can see a very distinct difference simply by the act of breathing. And you can imagine that what happens is as we breathe in, right, day in and day out, these minor changes accumulate over a long period of time, and you can actually see it on your face, to the point that now, having read what I read and knowing what I know, I can just look at a person and I would be able to tell if they possibly even suffer from sleep apnea or a number of other breathing related disorders that can happen because you're not breathing right. And you can look and tell that simply because of the way that their jaw is shaped. So if they have a recessed jaw, that probably means that they're not breathing correctly, definitely not breathing through their nose, as one should. The second benefit comes down to ailments and chronic maladies, so whether it's big or small, right? And here I'd like to share with you a very interesting quote which goes as follows. 90% of us, very likely, you, me, and almost everyone you know, is breathing incorrectly. And this failure is either causing or aggravating a laundry list of chronic diseases. Dozens of doctors at Harvard, Stanford, and other institutions told me the same thing. Modern medicine, they said, was amazingly efficient at cutting out and stitching up parts of the body in emergencies, but sadly deficient at treating milder chronic symptomatic maladies, the asthma, headaches, stress, and autoimmune issues that most of the modern population contends with. So again, very powerful stuff when it comes to chronic diseases, or even when it comes to the day-to-day. You have an allergy, you have a sinus infection. Are we really able to tie then these outwardly physical symptoms to the way we breathe? Not always. Now that's another thing to be aware of. The third, and I would say also a very interesting one, is simply the fact that how we breathe definitely has an impact on our cognitive health, because if we breathe well, we sleep well. For instance, people who have sleep apnea, which is a condition in which they have like an obstruction in the sinuses, in the nasal pathways, and then they can wake up in the middle of the night, so their sleep is extremely disrupted and disturbed. Now, people with sleep apnea, they tend to have a variety of other health issues that just come hand in hand. So then again, breathing well, sleeping well, and being cognitively sharp, these are all tied in together. Number 4, there are major psychological benefits. Not to forget, these obviously cannot really be downplayed. Psychological benefits of breathing correctly. And they basically come down to our memory, our ability to learn and retain information, as well as stress regulation, emotional regulation. All of that really comes down to how well we breathe. Here I'd like to share with you a quote by George Catlin, who was a 19th century lawyer, author, writer, and traveler. So quite a lot. Like, this person has been around, he has seen different communities and societies, and also very closely taken a look at how they breathe and how that affects their overall posture and their health in large part. And here's what George Catlin has to say about the correct breathing habit. And if I were to endeavor to bequeath to posterity the most important motto which human language can convey, it would be, "Shut your mouth," where I would paint and engrave it in every nursery and every bedpost in the universe. Its meaning could not be mistaken. So that is George Catlin for you. And what that means in simpler words is simply the following. Correct breathing posture, mouth shut, lips closed. The side of the jaw, so the teeth in the upper and lower jaw slightly touching each other, and tongue on the top, on the upper palate of the upper jaw. So tongue placed on the upper palate. So that's the correct breathing technique, also known as mewing, by the way, which I was pleasantly surprised because this technique called mewing has been around for a while. It has been popularized in mainstream media, and the name has just been drifting around. It has gained a lot of clout. However, having known of this, I even practiced this for a bit, I still was not sure if this was scientific, if there really was any kind of scientific grounding or backing to it, until of course I came across this book that legitimized the practice of mewing. So that's another fun fact, is mewing is very real, and the earlier you start, the better, the more noticeable the differences in terms of how well defined your jaw is, and overall appearance, and again, all the other health benefits that we discussed with breathing right. And this also leads to the question of, how do we know if our mouth is the right size? What does that even mean for the mouth to be the right size? Well, we live in a time where our mouths are increasingly becoming smaller and smaller, which some say is even an act of disevolution, which is evolution but regressing backward and conferring to us disadvantages instead of advantages. Now, how do you know that your mouth is becoming smaller? The very common practice of wisdom tooth removal indicates that modern humans' mouths do not even have all the space to accommodate their teeth. So wisdom tooth removal definitely was not something our ancestors ever had to think about or deal with, because their mouths were quite large and spacious and they had plenty of space and great oral hygiene, believe it or not. Now, that being said, how do you know again your mouth is the right size? This is how. The uvula will appear high and clearly visible from top to bottom. If the tongue overlaps the molars or has teeth indentations on its sides, it's too large and will be apt to clog the throat, thereby causing conditions like sleep apnea. Neck circumference should be no larger than 13 inches for females, 17 inches for males, because otherwise, if you have a very thick neck, that can also cram your highways. And again, all of these is the circumference of the neck, and every other thing we've talked about is interrelated to the breathing. Alright guys, thank you so much for being a part of this video. I hope you learned some new stuff. This was just the tip of the iceberg. There is just so much more information down here. But yeah, if you're interested in this topic, feel free to check out the links in the description box below, and I will see you around next time.